Tonight's ER will not air as originally planned on NBC. The show's producers have edited out a shot that showed the breast of an 80-year-old woman. The pressure to make the change came in light of Janet Jackson's Super Bowl stunt, and it has ER's executive producer furious. Noah Wyle stars as Dr. John Carter on the show. Hi, Noah. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Kate.
I mean, it is. We were talking during the commercial. NBC, I guess, encouraged the producers of ER to cut out the scene.
Well, not so much NBC corporate as the NBC affiliates, which I guess they would be liable if anybody took offense. So they pressured the network, who then in turn pressured John Wells, our executive producer, to remove the shot tonight.
And John Wells, as I said, was not very pleased about this.
No, and probably rightly so. I mean, it's a completely different context. It's an adult viewing audience as opposed to a family viewing audience. It's a medical context as opposed to a sexual, and it's an 80-year-old woman as opposed to Janet Jackson. So,
and she has no sort of pierced nipple thing
not
going,
that
right?
I recall, and I was the attending physician at the time.
This NBC statement. You gotta love America, right?
You gotta love America, yeah.
The NBC statement is, in consultation with our affiliate board, we have asked ER to remove a shot of an exposed breast of an 80-year-old woman receiving emergency care. Though we continue to believe the shot is appropriate and in context and would have aired after 10:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific time, we have unfortunately concluded that the atmosphere created by this week's events has made it too difficult for many of our affiliates to air this shot.
Yep. Yeah, so there you go.
We both want to keep our jobs, so we're going to have to be relatively restrained. But it seems like it's a slight overreaction, don't you think?
I think it is. I think it is an overreaction. It's more indicative of the times in which we live, in which something that becomes sensationalized has a snowballing effect, and something that, you know, should really be forgotten the next day and just chalked up to an interesting anecdote from the Super Bowl.
Or a publicity stunt.
Or a publicity stunt, exactly. Keep it in the proper context. It's sort of gotten out of hand.
Now, do you all routinely, I mean, you guys have pushed the envelope in terms of things that you have shown on television, not necessarily with a sexual connotation or anything,
sure.
like a breast, but...
I don't know if we've ever done it before. Maybe that was the first time. But it seemed perfectly natural in the context of the situation.
What was the storyline with the 80-year-old woman?
She's a woman who comes in with, actually the storyline was really about, this woman has pertussis, whooping cough, which is very rare in the United States and it's hard to find. She comes in, she's in congestive heart failure, in the process of trying to get her heart started again. I'm either shocking her or doing CPR, but her gown slips down and you see, you know, what it really would look like in the trauma room in that situation. And it wasn't trying to be sensationalistic so much as it is trying to be realistic. And that's an envelope that we've pushed and pushed and pushed. And I think it's added a lot of quality and a lot of detail to our show over the years when we've done that.
And you've done it at I mean, you've gone to great lengths to make things seem realistic, but often you deal with prosthetics and also obviously not
if we'd
real
only
things.
used prosthetics that time,
I know.
we wouldn't be sitting here
But it
talking.
must be interesting because for the viewer, it does look so real.
Absolutely.
Sometimes so real it's hard to watch.
It looks very real when you're up close and personal to it.
It does.
Too.
I mean, you're not mindful of the fact that everything is sort of.
Our set, you've been to our set. Our
Yes,
set's
but you go into a
incredible.
chest cavity that isn't really a chest cavity, obviously, and the blood isn't really blood. But do you kind of sort of go into it feeling like you believe that it really is almost?
That's my job. I have to do that.
Yeah.
That's why they pay me the big bucks, is to believe that that's actually a real chest.
You must. Well, before I ask you about this, what is the grossest thing that's happened to you on the set of ER?
Well, it happened to me a lot more when I was a medical student, it hasn't happened for a while, but I've had just about every simulated bodily fluid hurled in my direction at one time or another.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm glad you said simulated,
yeah.
You know? But I was thinking as I heard you describe what was affecting this 80-year-old woman, your knowledge of medicine. I know you're not a doctor, and you play one on TV, but you have probably learned, Noah, so much about medicine.
Yeah, it's a little frightening. It's one of those situations where the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know, and a little
Which I guess
knowledge
is
goes a long way.
Scary for doctors every day because
Sure.
it is really an inexact science about educated guessing.
Absolutely.
In many situations.
And as you mentioned this morning, you know, the information keeps being updated. I would have bet, like Mr. Scott, that breast cancer was the leading cause of death for women over 30.
Right.
Heart disease came as a complete shock to me. So,
really?
Yeah, it's a field that keeps expanding.
Do you ever, I know this is a off-the-wall question, but have you ever thought, gee, I'd like to go to med school.
I do have a sick fantasy that if the show goes a couple more years, I'll be honored with a honorary doctorate
Well,
for maybe a med
that's
school
very
in
different. An
Tijuana.
honorary
Oh,
doctorate.
you mean actually go to school?
I mean, yeah. Have you ever been? Has your interest in medicine been so piqued that you thought, "Gosh, I'd like to pursue this"?
No, I think this is as close as I was ever going to get.
Yeah.
My aptitude for math and science wasn't very strong.
Well, you've been on the show for 10 years. I know. I
10 years,
used
yeah.
to think I wanted to go to medical school, but I don't think I could pass chemistry.
I
That'd be
could
a
have
real
gone by
problem for
now.
me.
I could have actually gotten a degree if I had really applied my energies in a more productive way.
Well, a lot of people think you're doing pretty productive work, but
Why,
you've been
thank
on
you.
the show for 10 years. Your character continues to evolve. You went from sort of, I don't think you were ever a side character, really, but now you're kind of the lead doc on the set. And is that fun for you? And has it been exciting to
Sure.
see your character grow and develop? And
Well, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for an actor to be given an opportunity to play a character with an arc that extends as far as this guy's has. I mean, from where he started as a third-year medical student to bringing him around to chief resident has been an incredible journey. And
now you in this season you've been in Africa, right?
Yes.
Recently with Doctors Without Borders, which is
Yes.
a fantastic organization.
it's a great organization. We didn't use their name specifically because I think they were nervous about us doing that, but it's a similar type organization and gave us an opportunity to show what was happening in Africa with the AIDS epidemic and those types of storylines, the very real, very important storylines are the ones that I'm finding most gratifying these days.
I bet, and I know that while you were in Africa, your character was in Africa. You met somebody. You have a new
love
girlfriend. Her
interest,
name
yeah.
is Makemba. They
Yes.
call her Kemp for short. And I know that has sort of provided a new storyline for you and your character, which must be great.
Yes, she's pregnant. We're very much in love, and it's nice to show the character sort of reaching that next stage of maturation to no longer be a student but be a teacher, no longer be a son but potentially a father.
Which is great,
Yeah.
which you are, to
Which
a
I am, too.
15-month-old little boy named Owen.
Yes, I am.
And that's going well, and you and your wife are doing well?
Yeah, beyond.
Thinking
beyond.
about having another one?
We are. We're thinking about having several more. I want a whole starting 5 by the time we're done.
Okay, well, good luck. Does your wife agree with you on that?
Starting 2, starting 3. I'm working.
You're
on it.
working on it. Well, it's so great to see you,
Thank
Noah.
you,
Thanks
Katie.
so much.
My pleasure.
Thanks for coming in this morning. You can see more of Noah Wyle on tonight's episode of ER, which airs right